Hi everyone, I'm Bia, and welcome back to Cardiac Radio for Teens. For those of you who don't know, Cardiac Radio for Teens is a place where teens can come together with other teens to learn about Spiritist teachings and topics in a way that makes more sense to us and is more relatable to us as teenagers in today's society. Last week, we started reading Chapter 8 of the Gospel According to Spiritism together, and with Chapter 8, it's titled, Blessed are the Pure in Heart. So we've been talking about blessed are the poor in spirit, right? And we talked about that in Chapter 7 for a while. So now we're moving on to blessed are the pure in heart. And where we left off last week is, I would just like to read the last little bit of what we read last week, which we were in the section True Pureness, Unwashed Hands. When Jesus had finished speaking, a Pharisee invited him to eat with him. So he went in and took his place at the table. But the Pharisee noticed that Jesus did not wash his hands before the meal and was surprised. Then the Lord said to him, "Now you Pharisees clean the outside of the cup and the plate, but inside you are full of greed and wickedness. You are foolish people. Did not the one who made the outside make the inside also?" So here what we were talking about, right, and that's where we left off last week, is that in this situation, it's not saying, Jesus isn't telling people to not wash their hands, right? We know washing our hands is something to keep us clean, to keep us healthy. We know that we need to wash our hands, but what Jesus means by this is saying how these people, right, they're so concerned about everything being spotless on the outside, right? Having the best things, washing their hands, being clean. But what about their inside, right? Their inside is dirty, right? Their inside is wicked and full of greed. So their inside's not clean. They're so worried about washing their hands before a meal, but they haven't even cleaned the inside of themselves. So that's what Jesus is trying to get at. He's not saying to not wash our hands, right? We know that for health reasons we should. But he's showing that they are so concerned about washing their hands when they themselves were not clean. They themselves were full of greed. So now the spirits go on to explain that. The Jews had scorned God's true commandments in order to cling to the practice of regulations that had been established by man and had made the observance of these regulations a matter of conscience. The original simple substance became lost beneath complicated forms of rituals, as it was much easier to practice exterior cults than to effect moral reform. To wash hands instead of cleansing the heart. Thus, mankind became deluded, believing himself exonerated before God by conforming to these practices. Seeing that the people were taught that God demanded nothing more of them, they remained the same as they had always been. Hence the prophet said, "But in vain do they worship me, teach for doctrine commandments of men." So here what they're saying is that there were people, right, who weren't following the commandments per se, but they were doing rituals. And all these crazy elaborate rituals they did because it was easy to do something physical, right? It was easy to sacrifice an animal or to perform a ritual. It was easier to do that than to transform themselves, right? To change themselves. So people started getting this habit of just doing these complicated rituals, but not doing anything to improve themselves, not really learning. And what happened here was that no one was improving, right? Everyone was staying the same because no one was actually doing anything to better themselves. They were just performing these rituals. So even though they think it looks good to God, right? What God truly wants is for us to improve ourselves, to grow within ourselves, not to do these crazy rituals. So it's just showing, this is just an example showing, right, that it's not about that outside stuff that we do. It's not about making us look good on the outside, but what we're doing on the inside. That's what counts. Then they continue. The verification of this can be found in the moral doctrine of Christ, which has ended up in the second place. As a result, many Christians, just like the ancient Jews, consider that salvation is better guaranteed by means of external practice rather than by moral practice. It is to these man-made additions to God's law, which Jesus referred to when he said, "Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted, will be rooted up." So they're saying that this ancient example, right, of people doing rituals is still present today. A lot of people just go to church, right? They just go to church, they just pray, but they're not really meaning their prayer. They don't really mean it. They're just doing it to show people that they pray. And they're just doing these things to seem good on the outside, right? To think, oh, if I go to the church, I'm gonna get into the kingdom of heaven. I'm gonna be saved. But we know that it's not just that, right? It's about what we're transforming on the inside, what we're doing to improve ourselves, to transform ourselves, make ourselves better. So the same thing happens today, right? That people think that, oh, just by going to the church, that's good enough. But no, we need to start putting those things into our lives and improving ourselves. Just the action is not enough. And here Jesus said, "Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be uprooted." Right? So these are humans inputting their own laws to God's law, right? Nowhere did God say you have to do a crazy ritual or you have to attend a certain place. Nowhere God says that. But God is saying, right, the rules to transform ourselves, to better ourselves. But these man-made rules that are there, they're going to be uprooted because God didn't place that there, right? So that's not important. We need to focus on what God is truly wants us to do, and that's just to improve ourselves and learn and grow, not just to do things to look good on the outside. The objective of religion is to conduct humanity towards God. Well, God can only be reached through perfection. Therefore, every religion that does not make man better than at present time will never reach this objective. Everything which man judges will support him in committing evil is either false or has its principle falsified. Such is the result of all religions, where the form summons the base. Belief in the efficiency of exterior manifestation is null and void if it does not oppose the acts of murder, adultery, robbery, and the cause of slander or damage in whatever form to whomever it may be. These kinds of religion never created godly men and women, only people who are superstitious, hypocrites, and fanatics. The mere appearance of pureness is not enough, because above all else it is necessary to have a pure heart. So there's a lot of good points here that I want to talk about. And the first is this sentence where it says, "Therefore, every religion that does not make man better than the present time will never reach this objective." So it's not saying, right, the spirits aren't telling us everyone has to be spiritist. No, right? There's truths in other religions as well, right? Other religions also practice these good things, and that's the thing. As long as we are striving towards perfection of ourselves, not on the outside, right? Not beauty or not greed, but our internal perfection, if we're working towards that goal to bettering ourselves, all the religions that are doing this are great, right? We're not saying Spiritism is not going against other religions, which I think is very important in a time like today where we have so much diversity and inclusion, but we still have separation, right? To realize it's okay if someone's a different religion, right? It's what are they doing? Are they trying to improve themselves, to better themselves? But again, there are some religions who might be falsified, right? Some people invent religions all the time, right? And some might be falsified, might have the principle of it might be evil, the core of it might be evil, or people are just not improving themselves. They're only doing physical actions, but not actually improving themselves. So we need to be aware of these differences and to know that what's truly important is how we change ourselves, how we're improving ourselves. If someone finds a religion that isn't Spiritism, but they're truly trying to make themselves better and they're working on themselves, then that's great, right? That's great. And the only thing we have to be careful of is, like they're saying here, religions that might not have oppositions against murder or adultery or robbery, things we know is very wrong. We know it's wrong, right? If that religion is not saying that that's wrong, then that there might be a problem there, right? Or being mean to someone else. Anything of that nature, we should just be on alert that that might not be the best religion to get these teachings to better ourselves, because our goal is to get to perfection, right? To reach God, to get to perfection, which we need to learn, and we need to grow, we need to improve ourselves to get there. So we want to have a study that helps us do that. So whatever that study may be, as long as that study is helping you turn into that better person, then that's great. And here we're lucky enough to already have Spiritism and to be able to be learning these things right now, which we're lucky to have these learnings, but it also puts a bigger responsibility on us, right? We have these teachings. What are we going to make use of, right? How are we going to implement this into our lives? And the last sentence here is super important. The mere appearance of pureness is not enough, because above all else, it is necessary to have a pure heart. So it doesn't matter if you look pure, right? It doesn't matter if you're going to the church every day and it seems like you're pure. It doesn't matter if your parents and the adults in your lives and your friends think you're pure. It's not enough. We need to also have a pure heart. We need to be doing good, thinking good, right? Even our thoughts matter. Even things that other people might not know about us should be pure, right? Because a lot of, and we're on earth, right? That means we're not perfect. That means all of us have our impurities. But we need to be working towards having that pure heart. We need to be improving ourselves towards that goal. Now we're on to the next section of this chapter, which is titled, Offenses. If your hand be the cause of an offense, cut it off. And so now there's passages that, there's a passage from Jesus. Woe to the world because of offenses. Such sinful things must come, but woe to the man for whom the offenses come. But if anyone causes one of these little ones, who believe in me, to sin, it were better for him that a millstone were hung above his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Take care that you do not despise even one of these little ones. For I tell you that in heaven their angels always behold the face of my Father in heaven. For the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. And if your hand or your foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life lame or crippled than to have 2 hands or 2 feet and be thrown into eternal fire. And if your eyes offends you, pluck it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter into life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into the fire of hell. Matthew 18:6-11 and Matthew 5:29 and 30. Right here, right, this is a very strong message. It's saying, if you're going to do something, like, right, if your hand's going to do something wrong, then just cut it off and throw it away, because that's better. But of course, this was a harsh way of wording this message, but Jesus was trying to have that impact on the people, so they truly understood how serious this is of what he's talking about, right? If you're going to do bad things with your hands, if you're going to rob someone with your hands, then Jesus is saying it's better you cut them off and have to live a life crippled and just learn and continue to grow yourself, rather than having those hands that are going to make you do that wrong thing, right? And again, like they're saying, if you're going to if you're going to be looking at people and judging them and being critical, it's better that you, like they're saying, pluck out your eyes, because it's better to enter life with being blind, right, or having 1 eye, than to be doing all those bad things and then at the end not improving ourselves. And here we know that they had the concept of a heaven and a hell, and hell was this burning fire, but we know that while there's not a specific place of hell, if someone is doing all this evil, they're going to feel that suffering and feel that torture, which will be like fire to them, right? So that's what he's saying. It might sound dramatic, but if you think about it, right, it's Just saying it's better to not have something than to use it for the bad, to use it to do something wrong. So then comes the explanation. In its most usual sense of the word, offense means any action that goes ostensibly against a morality or decorum. The offense is not in the action itself, so much as in the repercussion it may cause. The word always implies a certain amount of commotion and dispute. Many people are content if they avoid causing offense in public, because this would cause them to suffer loss of prestige, so hurting their pride. They do their best to hide their mistakes, as this is sufficient to quieten their conscience. They are, as Jesus said, as white separages, which are full of rottenness, like vessels which are clean out, but dirty within. So again, the important thing here is not about getting caught, because if you're doing something wrong, God already caught you. God already knows. So it's not like, oh, you did something wrong, but you snuck it away from your mom, right? And you got away with it. And in your head, that was enough. Okay, I hid my mistakes. I didn't do that. That's enough. My conscience is clean. But no, God saw it, right? Maybe someone physically didn't see it. Maybe you got away with it, but God saw it, and that's going to come back, right? That's going to be something you're going to have to make up for. And just hiding it is not going to be enough to clear your conscience of that, right? Because it's just because we're clean on the outside by appearance doesn't mean that our insides are clean as well. But in the evangelic sense, the accepted meaning of the word offense, used so repeatedly, is very much more generalized, and this is why, in certain cases, its meaning is not understood. It becomes not only that which affects the conscience of another person, but also everything that is the result of vice and human imperfection, every bad reaction from one individual to another, with or without repercussion. In this case, the offense is the effective result of bad morality. So here they're saying that by what he means by offense, if your hand's going to commit an offense, anything that's bad, right? Anything that's bad morals is bad. Whether it's physical, emotional, whether you get caught, whether you don't get caught doing it, any of that stuff that's bad morals is an offense that they're talking about. Jesus said, "It is necessary that offenses exist in this world, because due to the many imperfections of those on earth, humanity shows itself inclined to practice evil, and also because bad trees only bring forth bad fruits." From these words, then, we must understand that evil is the consequence of man's imperfections, and not that there exists an obligation to practice evil. So here what they're saying that's really important is that, yes, Earth has offenses, right? Earth has imperfections because our world is not that evolved, right? And we are all imperfect. We're all striving to get to perfection, but we're imperfect. So there are going to be mistakes that we make. There's going to be people who are even less evolved who are truly trying to do evil. And from those evil people, right, there's going to be more evil people that kind of follow its lead, just like a bad tree only produces bad fruits. So if there is that bad tree, they're going to produce bad fruits. So Earth is a place that sadly does have evil, but it's necessary for us, right? Because we're not at that perfect state. But we must understand that there's no obligation to do evil, right? No one has to do evil. But what they're saying is because of our imperfections, that's where the evil comes out, right? That's where our mistakes happen. But it's not saying, oh, we have to make mistakes. There's no way to get around life without mistakes. Ideally, right, we would want to get away with life without mistakes. But because of our imperfections, that leads to us still having problems. But that doesn't mean we can't try our best to avoid those situations and to improve ourselves so much that we have less of these imperfections. Such sinful things must come so that humanity, being in atonement here on earth, may punish itself by contact with its own failings, thus becoming its first victim. from where it will finally come to understand the inconvenience of this way of life. When people are tired of suffering due to evil, they will seek a remedy in goodness. Therefore, the reaction caused by these failings serves for some as a punishment and for others as a test. This is how God gets good out of evil, and how humanity makes use of badness. So here what they're saying is there can be, since our imperfections are already driving us to do these wrong things, these evil things, there is a way that God can use this to get good out of it, right? That humanity can make use of it. We make use because as we make a mistake, we realize, wow, we really messed up. How can I fix myself so that never happens again, right? So out of that mistake that we made, because of our imperfection, God's able to use that to help us improve ourselves. And we're able to use it to help improve ourselves, saying, okay, I never want to do that again. Let me fix this. So while God is not wanting us to do evil and is not forcing us to do evil, our imperfections are causing us to do these wrong things. But from these wrong things, there's always an opportunity to learn. Of course, it's easier if we don't make the mistake and we don't suffer to then fix ourselves. It's easier if we just fix ourselves right away. But when we do make those mistakes, there is a way to bounce back, right? There is a way to learn from it and to grow from that. It could be said, then, that evil is necessary and that it will last forever, seeing that if it disappears, God would be deprived of a powerful means of being able to correct the guilty. It could also be said that it is useful to try to better mankind. However, if we cease to have culprits, then it would be unnecessary to have any kind of punishment. So it's saying if we didn't have anyone making mistakes, then there wouldn't need to be any punishments, right? So evil, people say that evil is necessary and that it'll last forever, but it's not necessary, right? Right now, we're imperfect, so it's happening, right? We're making mistakes all the time. But once we get past that, there's no need for punishments because we all won't be making those mistakes. Let us suppose that mankind was transformed, so becoming composed of only good men and women, then no one would think that doing evil to his neighbor, and all would be happy to be good. This is the condition found in the elevated worlds, where evil has been banished. This is what will come to pass here on earth, when humanity has made sufficient progress. But while some of the worlds are advancing, others are just forming. These new worlds are populated by primitive spirits, as well as being utilized as places of exile and atonement for imperfect spirits who are rebellious and persisting in evil, who have been expelled from worlds that have become places of happiness. So here they're saying that there are planets, right? There are planets, there are places that there is no evil because they're past that. But there are also planets that are less evolved than us with with primitive spirits. So we're in between, right? So we're gonna have evil, we're gonna make mistakes, but it's just a way to learn. And evil is not necessary because eventually, once we improve ourselves, there won't be any need for it, and we'll move to those higher worlds, or Earth will turn into one of those higher worlds that doesn't have evil at all, and everyone is happy doing good things. So again, we must always keep in mind how we can improve ourselves and make ourselves better so that we don't have to keep suffering and making these mistakes over and over again. And also, right, realize when we're so worried about what other people think of us, how we look on the outside, versus what about our insides, right? What about what we're feeling, what we're thinking, and nobody might see that, but God knows, right? So we need to try and do our best with that every day, and try and make sure that while we're cleaning our hands, right, washing our hands, we're also taking care of our insides and cleaning those impurities inside of us as well. So that's where we'll finish off for this week, and we'll read more of that chapter, read more about blessed are the pure in heart next week. Before we leave off today, I'd like to read our message from the Daily Book of Positive Quotations by Linda Picone for today's date, November 5th. Attitude and success. It is our attitude at the beginning of a difficult task which, more than anything else, will affect its successful outcome. We've all made the excuse, I can't do it. It's too hard. It's boring. It takes too much time. It's not worth the trouble. When we begin difficult tasks with attitudes like this, we are destined to fail. Even if we can't change a particular task, we can change the way we look at it. Yes, it's hard, but we can do it. We just need to make the commitment. I want to succeed whenever possible. I will make sure my attitude does not undermine my chances. If at all you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, anything at all, feel free to email me at cardiacradioforteens@gmail.com and I'll get back to you right away. I'm Bia, and this has been Cardiac Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening. This has been Cardiac Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.